Welcome to the Selling in the Motor Trade podcast, in association with Simco Training. This is the weekly podcast where we share best practice, tips and ideas on how to sell more cars, improve your service department, and generally put more profit into your dealership or dealer group. I'm your host, Simon Bowkett. Now, some of you probably already know me as Skippy. I want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Hi, welcome to another episode of Selling in the Motor Trade. Okay, and a lot of you people have been saying, give us those little stories there for our sales meetings. We love the idea of using these stories in the sales meeting. So, hey, here's another one. The US standard railway gauge is 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. That's quite a strange number, isn't it? 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. So why did they use that gauge? Well, that's really simple, because you see, that's the way they were built in England. And the English expats, they come over and they actually built the US railways. So, okay, then, why did the English build them like that? That's because the railway lines were built by the same people who built the pre-railway trams. And that's the gauge that they used. All right, then, so why did they use that gauge? Because the people who built the trams used the same jigs and the tools that were used for building wagons, which use that wheel spacing. All right, I know what you're thinking. So why did the wagons have that particular odd wheel spacing? Well, you see, if you tried to use any other spacing, the wagon wheels would break because they were going through on long roads, on long distance around England, okay? The wheels had to go into the wheel ruts. You have a different spacing, they'd go in and out of the wheel ruts and they'd break up all the time. Okay, so how did the rutted roads get there? So the people who built those old rutted roads were the Imperial Romans. And they were the first long distance roads throughout Europe and, of course, England. And they built it for all their legions. And those roads have been used ever since. Now, the ruts in the roads, okay, see, they come from the Roman war chariots. And they formed the initial ruts. And everyone else had to match for fear of destroying their wagon wheels. Since the chariots were made for the Imperial Roman, they were all alike in that manner of wheel spacing. So the United States railway gauge of 4 foot 8.5 inches is derived from the original specification for an Imperial Roman's war chariot. And they say bureaucrats live on forever. So next time you're handed a spec and you're told you've always done it that way before, okay, and you think, what horse's ass of an idea come up with that? You're probably right. Because the Imperial Roman war chariots were made just wide enough to accommodate the back ends of 2 war horses. Now, here's the twist to the story. You see, when you see the space shuttle sitting on the launch pad, there are 2 big booster rockets attached to the sides of the main fuel tanks. They're the solid rocket boosters, or SRBs. And the solid rocket boosters are made in a factory in Utah. And the engineers who designed them would have preferred to make them a bit fatter, a bit more solid rocket fuel in there, okay? But they had to get them to the launch site by train. And you see, the train had to go through a tunnel in the mountains. And the SRBs had to fit right through the tunnel. And the tunnel is just slightly wider than the railway tracks. And the railway tracks, as you know, is about as wide as 2 horses' asses. So the space shuttle, designed for the future, arguably one of the most advanced transportation systems ever developed, may have been limited by 2,000 years ago, the width of 2 horses' asses, and someone else thinking, we've always done it that way. So again, guys, one of these stories, go and fact check it. There's some truth in it. There's some bollocks. Okay, I'll let you go and decide. There's so much on the internet about, oh no, but the gauge is slightly different here and slightly different there. I don't know, but never let the truth get in the way of a good story. And I want you to think, if you're sitting there thinking, we've always done it that way. We've always done it that way. Hey, you know what? I started selling cars when I was 17 years old. I'm 49 now. The internet wasn't around, okay? The way that we used to ask people early on, what do you want for their car? I would always do that right at the beginning. Now, I'd never do it because of the internet. There's so many changes. Don't people know more about the car than what we do? Because they've done 19 hours and 42 minutes of research before they walk in, phone in, or email you. In fact, video. Don't sit there and think we've always done it that way. Keep an open mind. Look for the better mousetrap every single time. And look for those continual improvements all the time. It's marginal gains. Now, here's a story I do love. It's about the Sky push bike racing team, okay? They talked about how do you improve things? Look for marginal gains. Make everything slightly better. If you get a little bit of a percent increase here, and a little bit there, and a little bit there, that overall turns into a huge performance increase. Don't sit there and think we've always done it that way. Hey guys, all these stories, I'm getting bombarded with people saying, what about this story? What about that story there? I've got to tell you, I've had a lot of fun looking at these stories, okay? And that one in particular, go and Google it. I'm going to say it's kind of partially true, okay? There's a bit of truth in it and a bit of maybe not so true. I always wonder, how do these people know this, going all the way back to the Romans, the wits and all that sort of stuff? But hey, listen, as I say, never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Remember, don't just say we've always done it that way. Anyway, another quick one for you this time, and I'll see you next time. That just leaves me to say that all details of this episode and other episodes on the selling in the motor trade can be found on our website, simcotraining.co.uk. Go there to get a copy of our book, Words That Sell Cars. Go there to sign up to a free trial of our Sales Fitness online sales training program. Easiest way to get hold of me is Simon Bowkett through LinkedIn.